Hi, I'm Macy, and I'm 42 years old. I've been married twice. My second marriage is a blessing, but my first was a disaster. My first husband, Bobby, was my high school sweetheart. I was a cheerleader, and he was a jock, and we had so much fun together. He was my first love, and I believed we'd be together forever. We even made plans to attend the same university to stay close, but during my second year, at 19, I found out I was pregnant. My family wasn't happy, and honestly, neither was I. My mom always warned me that life with Bobby wouldn't be easy. They never really liked him, although they couldn't pinpoint why, they just had a bad feeling. As a rebellious teen, I ignored them, eager to prove them wrong. Both our families agreed to support us until we graduated and got jobs, which I'm still grateful for today. Bobby and I had a simple courthouse wedding and welcomed our first child. At first, Bobby was an incredible dad, and I felt like I was proving everyone wrong. But 2 years later, I got pregnant again. By then, I had finished college, but I quit my job to take care of the kids. Bobby was juggling 2 jobs to support us, and even though life was tough, I believed as long as we had each other, we'd make it through. Things changed a few months after our second child was born. Bobby became distant, and no matter how much I tried to talk to him, he brushed me off. Then one day, I took the kids for a walk, and when we returned, the apartment was empty. All of Bobby's stuff was gone. I panicked, and seeing me like that made the kids cry. I tried calling him over and over, but he didn't answer. I rushed to my mom's house with the kids, barely holding it together. When my mom opened the door, she saw the distress on my face and asked, "What happened?" "I think Bobby left me," I replied, trembling. What do you mean?" "I took the kids out, and when we came back, all his stuff was gone. I can't get a hold of him." "Oh no, do you know why he'd leave like that?" "I don't know, he's been acting different, but I didn't think he'd actually leave." "Okay, calm down, we'll give it some time. If he doesn't return, we'll move forward with a divorce. I'm here to help." "But I loved him. How could he do this to his own kids?" "I know it hurts. We may never understand his reasons, but you need to focus on the children. You can't fall apart, not when they need you the most." My mom was right. The next few months were agonizing, but I had to stay strong for my kids, who were the spitting image of Bobby. I cried almost every night, but eventually, time began to heal the pain. When my kids were old enough, I told them the truth about their father. They were upset, of course, but they handled it with surprising maturity. With my mom's help, we rebuilt our lives and moved on from that dark chapter. 13 years after Bobby walked out, I met Fred at a friend's birthday party. My mom had offered to watch the kids, so I decided to unwind and enjoy the night. I was chatting with my friends when Fred approached me. My friends had been urging me for years to start dating again, but I had been too scarred by my past. Still, something about Fred caught my attention. He asked if he could buy me a drink, and I figured, why not? After we got our drinks, we started talking. "So, what brings you here?" he asked. "I'm celebrating my friend's birthday," I replied. "That's great. How about I send over drinks for all of them?" "There are 7 of them," I warned. "No problem. I'll earn back what I spent in a couple of hours." "So, you're loaded?" I teased. He laughed, something like that, "But I'm not trying to brag, just spreading a little joy." I smiled. "Well, it's kind of you to buy drinks for strangers just because I said it was their birthday. What can I say? I have a weakness for beautiful women." "Even if they lie to you?" I asked playfully. "Yes," he grinned, "but you're not lying, are you?" "Nope, it really is one of their birthdays, but it's worrying that pretty women make you weak. You should work on that," I joked. "Maybe if I had one pretty woman by my side, I'd only have a weakness for her," he said with a wink. I was flattered by Fred's charm, and for the first time in a long while, I flirted back. I was usually reserved, but with Fred, I felt at ease. Maybe it was the drink, or maybe it was just him. Before the night ended, Fred bought drinks for my friends, and we exchanged numbers. From then on, we texted constantly, later moving to phone calls. We started meeting up in public, but as time went on, we grew closer and began spending time at each other's homes. The first time I stepped into Fred's home, I was completely taken aback. It looked more like a mansion than a house. Fred chuckled at my reaction and told me to get used to his wealth since it would soon be a part of my life, too. He was always open about wanting to marry me, often saying how comfortable he felt around me. That made me love him even more. What stood out about Fred was how accepting he was of my kids. When I told him about my past with Bobby, He was genuinely upset on my behalf. From that point on, Fred did everything he could to show how much he cared. In every way, Fred and Bobby were complete opposites. Being with Fred made me realize why so many people were against my relationship with Bobby. Although I hated how things ended with Bobby, I was grateful to have moved on. And Fred played a huge role in helping me heal. We dated for just a year before tying the knot. Our wedding was a destination event, with our closest friends and family flown in to celebrate with us. My kids were ecstatic and often told me how much they adored Fred, which brought me a lot of comfort. Life after our wedding was smooth and easy. Fred took away all my worries and even contributed to my children's education, despite my insisting that I could handle it. He wasn't just interested in me, he accepted all of us. He even redecorated my kids' rooms exactly how they wanted before we moved in together. Fred did everything Bobby didn't, and much more. It was a turning point for our family, and it brought us closer together. Later, Fred and I had a child of our own, but he never treated my other children any differently. About a year after we married, my kids asked Fred to officially adopt them, and that was another heartwarming moment for our family. From then on, we became one big family, doing everything together, dinners, vacations, and making fun memories. My career was flourishing, and Fred's business was booming, too. Life felt perfect, without a single issue. 7 years passed in what felt like a blink, and then one day, I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered. "Well, look who it is." "Macy," the voice said. "Who is this?" I asked, confused. "Don't you recognize me?" "It's Bobby, how've you been?" he replied. "Bobby, how did you even get my number?" I asked, completely taken aback. "I happened to come across it and thought I'd check in on you," Bobby said. "Why would you do that? What do you want?" I asked, irritated. "Just curious how life's been treating you. It's been a long time. Since you abandoned me and your kids?" "I'm doing just fine," I shot back. "Come on, Macy, we both know things were rocky between us, and we would have ended up divorced anyway," Bobby said, brushing off the past. "So you just vanished without saying a word? Do you even realize how much pain you caused?" I pressed. "I wanted to avoid all the drama, so I did what I had to do," he responded coldly. "You're unbelievable," I muttered. "Leaving was the best thing you ever did for me." "Are you serious right now?" "Absolutely, I married someone far better than you, and in case you're wondering, we're living our best life." "Well, I'm doing just fine too. I married a wealthy woman, and let's just say it worked out well for me. I've got a high-paying job now, living the dream." "You left your own kids for someone else's? That's really something," I said, disgusted. "Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do," Bobby replied smugly. "Do me a favor and never contact me again. Goodbye." I hung up, stunned by his arrogance. I was furious. The nerve of him to call just to brag about his new life. Part of me wanted to keep talking to get more answers, but I was too overwhelmed with emotions. After that call, I wasn't hurt for myself, I was hurt for my kids. They had grown up without a father, and now he had the audacity to reappear in my life, bragging about raising someone else's children. I felt disgusted. Bobby was exactly the selfish person I now saw him as. I blocked his number immediately and told Fred what happened later that night. Fred was supportive and glad I had blocked Bobby's calls, and we moved on from that chapter. But Bobby didn't stop. A week later, I got another call from an unknown number. It was him again, and he was once more bragging about his lifestyle, his luxury cars, and his kids' expensive schooling. I didn't even bother responding. I hung up instantly, but he kept calling, finding new numbers to reach me, telling me about his extravagant purchases. I blocked each number, but he always found a way to contact me. He became a constant nuisance, and I eventually stopped answering unknown numbers altogether. One day, during a stressful day at work, Bobby called again. "Hey, Macy," he said, his voice casual. "Will you please just leave me alone?" I snapped. "Oh, come on, I'm just trying to catch up," he said lightly. "You're 20 years too late. My kids don't care about you, and neither do I. Just stop. You know you enjoy hearing from me, Macy," he said smugly. I don't care about your so-called great life." "Are you jealous? Because it sounds like you're jealous," Bobby taunted. "Believe me, I'm not," I replied. "Well, here's something to be jealous about. I just got a promotion," he bragged. "I really don't care," I said, cutting him off and ending the call. Though I was angry after the call, something he said kept bothering me. I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. so I let it go for the moment and focused on my work. I couldn't shake off the feeling when it dawned on me. Bobby mentioned he worked for Digitum, one of the leading media firms in our city, and that resonated because Fred is the CEO and founder of that company, my husband. I couldn't believe how perfectly fate had aligned. This meant I finally had an opportunity to teach Bobby a lesson, not just for pestering me, but also for abandoning his children. I eagerly awaited Fred's return home, brimming with excitement to share my day with him. Did something happen? You seem unusually energetic, Fred asked when he noticed my demeanor. Nothing in particular, but I discovered something significant, I said, barely able to contain my enthusiasm. Oh, what is it? He asked, intrigued. Bobby called again. That creep, if I ever get my hands on him, Fred began, anger simmering just below the surface. That's the thing, he might be closer than we think, I interjected. Huh? What do you mean? Fred asked, perplexed. Today, he called to brag about his promotion, and guess where he's employed? I said, a grin breaking across my face. You're not suggesting he works at my company? Fred exclaimed, disbelief evident in his tone. Exactly. At first, I thought the name sounded familiar, and then it clicked. I explained. Seriously? You didn't recall the company I built? Fred teased. Listen, I was far too furious to remember anything. Cut me some slack, I shot back playfully. I'm just kidding. Anyway, do you want me to fire him? Fred asked. Absolutely, but I'd like to humiliate him first, I said. Of course, it would be bold of you to think I wouldn't fire him in the most humiliating way possible, Fred chuckled. With that, we set our plan for revenge in motion. We decided to wait a few weeks before executing our strategy to terminate his employment. We would record his calls to me and play them for everyone at a large company event in 2 months, which Bobby would be overseeing. Several prominent figures would be present, and we aimed to tarnish his reputation. Over the following weeks, I answered Bobby's calls with calmness, knowing I held the upper hand. I listened to him boast about his riches and my lack thereof, all while recording every conversation. These recordings would ultimately come back to haunt him, and I could hardly wait. When the day of the event finally arrived, I normally avoided large crowds, but this time I was determined to witness Bobby's downfall. Fred treated me to a beautiful, expensive dress for the occasion. I stayed in the car until Fred called me, not wanting Bobby to spot me and flee. I entered when Fred introduced me during his speech. As I walked on stage, I saw Bobby's face drop. I smirked as I passed him, reveling in his discomfort. Fred praised me and spoke of our wonderful years together while raising my children. With every compliment, Bobby seemed to sweat even more. I beamed with pride as the audience applauded me. Then, Fred's speech took an unexpected turn. He shared how I had been harassed by my ex-husband recently, detailing how he had abandoned me and our kids to start a new family with someone else. But fate had a twist in store. As my ex-husband worked for Fred's company, the crowd gasped in shock, speculating about the identity of my ex. Fred quieted the murmurs, promising to reveal who it was. He pointed to Bobby, declaring him to be my ex-husband. The audience buzzed with disbelief. Bobby looked like he might faint, realizing there was no escape. Fred wasn't finished. He had evidence. He played the recordings of Bobby's calls to me, exposing his behavior. Bobby stood frozen as the truth unraveled. Fred announced that, due to Bobby's actions, he was terminated. The crowd erupted in cheers as Fred and I left the stage. Bobby was escorted out, and the event proceeded smoothly. Revenge was served, and it tasted sweeter than anything else. The next day, I received yet another call from an unknown number. You're quite audacious to call me again after last night, I answered. You tricked me, the voice on the line exclaimed. What do you mean? I replied innocently. You deceitful witch, don't play dumb with me. How could you not tell me you were remarried, and to my boss, no less? Bobby raged. As I've mentioned before, Bobby, I simply didn't care about you, I answered coolly. I know that, but you could have at least informed me, he shot back. So you would have stopped bothering me if you knew who my husband was? And if my husband wasn't your boss, you would have continued harassing me? I countered. Don't twist my words, Bobby exclaimed. I'm not distorting anything, and if we're discussing decency, Bobby, let's talk about how you abandoned your family. If you could do that, I can certainly do this. Enjoy your new life, and good luck finding a new job, I replied firmly. I don't have a family anymore. My wife left me because of yesterday, and she took the kids. It's all your fault, Bobby lamented. I didn't do anything. You brought this upon yourself. Goodbye. Bobby, and good luck," I said, ending the call. It felt liberating to finally confront Bobby and know that I had contributed to his downfall. I hope he learns never to mess with me or my family again. Fred and I continue to flourish together, and our children have matured into wonderful adults. My life is peaceful once more, and I no longer worry about Bobby's calls. I finally feel vindicated and free. Thanks for tuning in, and see you again in the next video. Stay stunned.